I wasn't invited to the wedding, but sister used my card for the catering deposit. I found out from a text. We'll pay you back after the honeymoon. I smiled, froze the card, flagged the charge, then sent one email with screenshots. 20 minutes later, the caterer replied, "Deposit reversed, balance now due in full, $11,500. An hour later, my sister called screaming. My sister didn't invite me to her wedding. Not a text, not a phone call, not even one of those fake save-the-dates people send just for show. Nothing. She planned the whole thing like I didn't exist. And it wasn't a small wedding either. 148 people were invited. I saw the list later. Our cousins were on it. People she hadn't talked to since high school were on it. Her fiancé's former roommates were on it. But not her only brother. Ashley and I have never had a good relationship. That's not news. Even as kids, we fought over everything. Who got the front seat? Who touched whose stuff? Who got praised more for doing the bare minimum? She always had this habit of acting like the universe owed her something, and somehow, our parents played right into it. I was always the calm one, the one who kept my head down and didn't stir things up. Maybe that's why they thought they could get away with this. At first, I thought maybe she'd reach out eventually. Maybe I'd get a last-minute invite or an awkward apology, or some half-hearted attempt at damage control. Instead, I got a text message 4 days before the wedding. It said, "We'll pay you back after the honeymoon." That's it. No context. No name. Just that. And I knew right away who it was from. I opened my banking app. $11,500. Catering service. Charged to my card. I stared at the transaction, then at the message. She didn't even bother to ask. She just used my card like it was hers. Figured she'd deal with it later. Or maybe she assumed I'd just let it slide. I didn't. I froze the card immediately. Took screenshots. Reported the charge as unauthorized. Then I emailed the catering company and told them what happened. I included the proof, told them the cardholder never approved the transaction. They replied in 20 minutes. The deposit was cancelled. Full amount refundable. That's when the phone calls started. First it was Ashley. Then Mom. Then Dad. They called nonstop for hours. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't owe them an explanation. Not after the way they'd let her walk all over me for years. The wedding was 3 days away. A big fancy reception hall, rented chairs, a live band, a massive guest list, and no food. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. They hadn't even planned on seating me at a table. No one was waiting for me. No one cared if I was there. So now they had something else to worry about. Ashley got through to me the next morning. I'd ignored her the night before, but I guess part of me wanted to hear how she'd explain it. If she'd own it. Apologize. Something. She didn't. She started in like I'd set her house on fire. Demanding to know why I sabotaged her wedding, accusing me of being vindictive and bitter and jealous. Jealous of her wedding, her life, her fiancé. She didn't ask why I froze the card. She didn't even deny using it without permission. She just acted like it was obvious that I should have gone along with it. Because it was her big day. Because we're family. I waited for her to stop, then asked one question. Who gave her permission to use my card? She didn't answer. Just tried to shift again, said she was going to pay me back, said it was always the plan, said she figured I'd be fine with it since I wasn't helping out with anything else. That part made me laugh. Helping out. Like being cut off the guest list made me a bad brother, and stealing from me was justified. She said I'd embarrassed her. That people were already finding out about the catering being pulled. That she might have to cancel the whole thing. I didn't say much after that. Just told her if she wanted a caterer, she could find one who accepted IOUs. A few minutes after we hung up, my parents started calling. I didn't answer. They called again. And again. Then my dad texted me. "Pick up. This is serious." So I did. I figured maybe they were going to talk sense into her. Nope. They launched right in. Said I'd overreacted. Said weddings were stressful. Said Ashley was under pressure. Said I should have come to them first instead of making a scene. When I reminded them that I wasn't even invited, they brushed it off like it didn't matter. Like being excluded from a family event wasn't worth getting upset over. Then Mom said it. Calmly. Like it was nothing. If you're going to behave this way, maybe it's best we wait on returning that kitchen money. I loaned them $12,000 last year to renovate the kitchen. They asked for help because their savings were tied up, and I didn't think twice. I never brought it up again. Now it was being dangled over my head like a ransom. That flipped a switch in me. I didn't say much. Just told them I'd take that as their official answer. Then I hung up. They didn't know it, but I had another favor lined up. I was planning to pay for 3 months of rent, $3,300, for Ashley and her fiancé to help them start off a little easier after the wedding. They never asked for that. I was just going to surprise them. Thought maybe, just maybe, that would be a small peace offering. Some gesture that said, "Despite everything, I still care." I tore the check in half. Then into quarters. Then into confetti. Let them figure it out on their own. 2 days before the wedding, it all started to unravel. Not just quietly behind the scenes, publicly. Word got out that the catering had pulled out. Ashley tried to control the damage, told people there was a minor vendor mix-up, that a new caterer was already lined up. But there wasn't one. She was scrambling, and people could tell. Our cousin Jenny messaged me on Facebook that afternoon. Said she heard something about a money issue, and asked if everything was okay. I didn't answer. She followed up saying she hoped Ashley and I could make peace. I left her on read. By evening, the family group chat exploded. People started asking questions. What happened with the food? Do they need help? Should we bring dishes? Ashley left the chat. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with a series of block number calls. I didn't answer. Then she showed up. I was halfway through a sandwich and a rerun when the buzzer rang. I checked the monitor. Ashley. Standing there in full drama mode, hair a mess, makeup smudged, phone in hand, pacing. I didn't open the door. I buzzed once to tell her to leave, then shut the intercom off. She buzzed again. And again. Then started yelling into the speaker that she just wanted to talk. Said she needed my help. Said I didn't understand how much pressure she was under. Said this wasn't fair. She used the word fair. I opened the window just enough to hear her clearly, and told her she needed to leave. She looked up at me like I'd slapped her. Said she never meant to hurt me. That she'd only used the card because she knew I had the money. That I always had the money. Then she said something that really stuck. You wouldn't even have noticed if I hadn't texted. That was her logic. That if she hadn't told me, I should have just swallowed it. Like theft is okay if it's quiet. I told her she had 10 seconds to leave or I was calling the police. That shut her up. She stood there another minute then walked off. No apology. No explanation. Just left like she'd been wronged. The silence didn't last. At 10 p.m., my parents called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad texted, "You're out of control. Pick up now." I picked up. It was both of them on speaker. Mom led with the guilt, told me Ashley hadn't eaten all day, that she was emotionally wrecked, that she'd been crying nonstop. Said she had to lie to the guests and say I was sick, which made me laugh. Then Dad stepped in. Said I was acting like a stranger. Like someone who didn't care about family. I told them I cared plenty. Just not about people who steal from me and then act like it's my fault when they get caught. Then Mom said it. Her voice dropped, and she said it slowly, like she'd been waiting to use it. "If we had known you'd turn out like this, we wouldn't have had you at all." There was no shouting. No gasping. Just those words hanging there. She meant it. She didn't try to take it back. I didn't say anything. Didn't hang up either. Just waited. A few seconds later, Dad said they hoped I would still come around, but that I had to earn back some trust. I ended the call. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. Not even hurt. Just detached. Like someone had finally said the quiet part out loud, and I didn't have to pretend anymore. The wedding went ahead somehow. They scraped together some low-budget food trucks set up last minute, tacos and lemonade in plastic cups. Not exactly the elegant dinner for 148 guests they had planned, but Ashley played it off like it was intentional. On Instagram, she posted a carefully cropped photo of herself holding a bouquet in front of a barn wall, captioned it, "Nothing went as planned, but everything was perfect. #grateful #married. A few of the usual people commented with hearts and, "So beautiful," but most of the family stayed quiet. I figured that was the end of it. I got my refund, made my point, and planned to move on. Then, 2 days later, an envelope showed up at my apartment. No return address, no postage. Just slipped under the door. My name on the front in my mom's handwriting. Inside was a check for $12,000, the exact amount I'd loaned them for the kitchen renovation. It was folded around a yellow post-it note that said, "We don't want to owe you anything." No. Thank you? No. We're sorry. Just a transaction. Like I was a bank they were closing the account with. I deposited it the same day. I thought that was the end of it. But then things started to twist in a direction I didn't see coming. A week passed. Then I got a handwritten letter in the mail. From Aunt Diana, Ashley's godmother, the one who always sat in the corner at family parties talking about her cats. We weren't close. Barely even exchanged greetings at Thanksgiving. Her letter was 2 pages long. She said she'd heard everything. That I did the right thing. That she knew, for years, the way Ashley and my parents treated me wasn't right. That she never said anything because it wasn't her place. But she wanted me to know now. She saw me. She called me a good man. Wrote that sometimes families get too used to someone being the quiet one, and they mistake that for weakness. I didn't expect it. I read it 3 times. The next surprise came a few days later. Ashley texted. First just, "Hey." Then a longer one. "I know I messed up. I don't even know how we got here. I wish we could talk." There was no venom in it. No guilt trip. Just a kind of weird, tired honesty. I didn't respond. Not out of spite. I just didn't know what to say. Then Mom started. It was like a slow campaign. First, a message with a picture of my old dog from when I was a kid. "Found this. Made me think of you." Then, "I made your favorite soup tonight. Left some on the porch." Then a voicemail. She sounded like she'd aged 10 years. Said the house was quiet. Said she missed hearing my voice. Said she was sorry for how things went. But not once did she mention what she said to me on the phone. The one sentence I couldn't shake. The one she probably assumed I'd forget. And then came the weirdest moment of all. I got home from work one night, bags in hand, dead tired, and there they were, my parents, sitting on the concrete steps outside my building. Like teenagers waiting to be picked up from a party. Mom stood up and tried to hug me. Dad looked like he was ready to read from a script. I didn't move. Mom said they just wanted to talk. Said they'd been thinking about everything. Said maybe they'd let things go too far. That families fight but they don't stay broken. I said nothing. Just looked at them. Then she finally said it. "I didn't mean what I said, David." That was the apology. Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "I didn't mean it." Like it was a bad joke she forgot she told. Like I was supposed to unhear it. I told them I wasn't ready. That maybe I'd never be. And I walked past them and shut the door behind me. They stayed outside for almost an hour. I watched through the peephole. Eventually they left. And that's when it clicked, none of this was about regret. It was about control. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry it didn't work. They kept trying. A week later, Ashley sent a card. Not a text, not an email, a real card, pink with silver cursive. Inside was a message written in black ink that looked like it had been erased and rewritten a few times. "I know you probably hate me, and maybe I deserve it. But I wish things were different. I wish we were still close. I miss my brother." I stared at it for a while, then tossed it in a drawer with the letter from Aunt Diana. I didn't throw it out. I didn't reply either. That's when the campaign really ramped up. I started getting invited to things. A cousin's birthday party. A Sunday dinner. A church fundraiser. My name would be casually mentioned in group texts. People acting like I was still part of the fold. Like none of it had happened. Like we were just going through a weird patch. But then came the kicker. A family friend, I won't say who, messaged me out of nowhere, said they'd heard about what happened, and that they were sorry things got ugly. Then added something strange. "Your mom's been saying you've been struggling with mental health lately. That you're isolating." I read that twice. That was their narrative now. I wasn't wrong. I was fragile. Confused. Maybe even unstable. That's how they were spinning it. To save face. To explain why their son, who helped them, loaned them money, didn't show up to the wedding, didn't call anymore, didn't smile in group photos. I called the friend. Asked them plainly. Who else had they told that to? The answer wasn't surprising. A lot of people. That flipped a switch. They wanted to erase what they did. Turn it into a story where I was the unstable one, and they were the concerned, loving family who just couldn't get through to me. That's why they showed up at my door. That's why the soup. That's why the card. It wasn't about love. It was about the story. And I wasn't playing the role they needed me to. So I started talking. I told Aunt Diana everything. Showed her the screenshots, the check, even the voicemail. She wasn't shocked. Just nodded, then said something I'll never forget. They only chase you now because you walked away. A few days later, my uncle called. Another one I wasn't close to. Said he'd heard I'd been mistreated, and that I wasn't crazy. Said he'd seen it before, the way my parents handled things. That it wasn't my job to hold the family together. Then my cousin Mark sent me a message. Just want you to know, man, you're not the one who's wrong here. I see what they're doing. One by one, the quiet people started speaking. And just like that, the story started to shift. But not because I forgave them. Because I stopped hiding. It had been 3 quiet weeks. Not a word from Ashley, my parents, or anyone who used to orbit around their little son. I figured the storm had passed, or at least that they'd finally accepted I wasn't crawling back. The silence felt earned. Solid. Then the email came. Subject, family estate matter, request for contact. It looked legit. Clean formatting, real names, no shady links. It was from a small law firm out of Hartford, one I'd never heard of. The message was short and direct. I was listed as a named beneficiary in a pending family trust matter, and asked to schedule a brief call. At first, I thought it was a scam. Some AI trick or phishing setup. But I kept reading, and one sentence hit different. This concerns the estate of Raymond W. Kessler. Great-uncle Raymond. He died when I was 16. Quiet guy. Lived in a rusted-out ranch house with 100 books and a backyard full of squirrels. Never married. No kids. My mom always said he didn't leave a will, that whatever junk he had went to the state or was probably burned. She used to joke he kept money in cereal boxes. Now, apparently, he'd left a trust. And I was named in it. I asked for documents. They sent over the scanned pages, old, typed, with his signature at the bottom in that weird slanted handwriting I remembered from birthday cards. There it was, in black and white, my name. A trust that had sat untouched since 2009. And not just mine, Ashley's name was there. My parents. A few distant relatives. And here's the thing, I don't believe for a second this was news to them. It didn't make sense. Why now? Why me? Why after all this time, after all this fallout, did I suddenly matter again? I started going back through old emails, messages, everything. Trying to find if anyone ever slipped up. Mentioned Raymond. The trust. Anything. Nothing. But then I remembered something. About a year ago, my mom called me out of the blue and asked if I'd ever looked into Raymond's property. She phrased it like curiosity, said something about those old places sometimes holding value. I thought it was just small talk. I told her I didn't know anything and forgot about it. Now I think they've known for a while. Maybe they were trying to keep it quiet, hoping I'd stay out of it. And now that lawyers are involved, they can't keep me out anymore. I haven't told them I got the email. I haven't told anyone. The meeting's scheduled for next Thursday. Just a Zoom call. 30 minutes tops. I've been told it's purely informational. But something about it doesn't sit right. Not just because of the timing. Because of the silence. Because of the way they went from controlling me to completely letting go. As if they were trying to hide something bigger than a catering bill or a stolen credit card. I don't know what's in the trust. Could be worthless. Could be life-changing. Could be a trap, knowing them. But I'm going to that meeting. And whatever I find out, I'll write another update. Something tells me this isn't over. Not even close. The update. It's been a little over a month since the Zoom call. I waited to write this until I had the full picture, until the dust settled enough to see what actually happened. Honestly, I'm still processing some of it. The meeting was short, just like they said. A lawyer in a small office, glasses too big for his face, opened by saying we were all named in the trust of Raymond W. Kessler, who passed in 2009 and left behind what he called a modest but meaningful gift to those who matter to him. There were 6 names on the call: me, Ashley, my parents, and 2 relatives I hadn't seen since I was 12. The lawyer read from a letter Raymond wrote, dated 6 months before he died. It was rambling, weird, exactly like you'd expect from someone who wore 3 watches and kept birdseed in his glove compartment. But then it got specific. He wrote, "Only one of you ever came to see me without being asked? Only one of you helped me carry groceries without asking what was in it for him? And only one of you sat on my porch and didn't treat me like I was already gone?" That one person was me. I didn't even remember those visits, not clearly. I just knew my parents used to drop me off at his place when they needed a night alone or didn't want to take both kids to a wedding or something. I'd sit with him, listen to the radio, feed the birds. It wasn't a chore. It was just quiet. Turns out, those hours meant everything to him. And that's why he left me everything. Not a split, not a portion. Everything. The house. The land. A stock portfolio I didn't know existed. And a safety deposit box that, when opened, held a pile of old silver coins and a first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird in perfect condition. The lawyer said the entire estate, conservatively, was worth over $630,000. Ashley froze on the call. Literally didn't speak for almost 3 full minutes. My mom started interrupting, talking over the lawyer, saying there had to be a mistake, that Raymond would never do that. My dad just stared at the screen like it was buffering. And then the lawyer added one final detail. Raymond had left a letter for me, separate from the trust. It was sent to my apartment a few days later. The letter was 2 pages long. In it, he wrote about how families fail each other sometimes. About how love is easy to fake but hard to prove. About how he'd spent his life being overlooked, and how the only person who ever seemed to see him without judgment was a kid who never asked for anything in return. He ended with this. "Spend it well. Spend it quietly. But never forget what they did when they thought you had nothing." Since the call, my parents have tried reaching out twice. One message said, "We can work this out." The other said, "You need to think about what's best for the family." I didn't answer either. Ashley hasn't said a word. But the others, relatives I barely knew, have suddenly remembered my name. Invitations are arriving again. Dinners. Reunions. Kind words. I haven't gone to any of them. I sold the land last week. A developer made an offer. The money's in a separate account, untouched for now. I haven't made any big moves. I still live in the same apartment. Still walk to the same coffee shop. Still go to work every day. But something in me shifted. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to explain myself. I didn't have to justify walking away. The truth stood on its own, and so did I. If anything else happens, if they try again, if something new comes to light, if the quiet gets loud, I'll write another update. But for now, this is the ending they wrote for me. And I've decided it won't be the one I live in.